Hi and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptid Roost. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the arse of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. And by subscribing, you will be the first to see all of our new spooky creepypasta stories. I would like to reach out and say a huge thank you to those of you who have been supporting Cryptid Roost financially with your sponsorship. We pray the good Lord replenishes you abundantly, and to those of you who will, later on. We pray the good Lord bless you as you do so. And also a huge thank you to everyone for always supporting the channel with your likes, comments and shares as well. It is all very much appreciated. God bless you all. And why not hashtag cryptidsroost in your comments. And I hope you all enjoy this upcoming Halloween weekend. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. Party Favours. This awesome story is written by getyaisha, a wonderful author over on Reddit. And if you would like to read more of his works, the Reddit link to his profile will be below in the description. A dim light flickered and buzzed, casting shadows down a bloody soaked hallway. Sitting near the stairwell, barely conscious, Tabitha Holt, Tabby to her friends, clung to life, bleeding to death from a gaping wound in her stomach. Screams from somewhere deeper in the building told her there was at least one other person still living, but by the sound of it, not for long. Closing her eyes, she tried to focus on getting down the stairs to the street, where hopefully somebody would find her and get her to a hospital. Mustering up what little strength she had left, she reached for the door as a low, guttural growl rumbled through the hall behind her. All she could do was let out a last whimper before the creature grabbed her by the legs and dragged her away screaming. 9 hours earlier, Halloween night, Tabby and her boyfriend David were preparing for the biggest party of the year. They were going all out for the occasion. David would be dressed as a xenomorph from Aliens, while she would be going as Ripley. They'd spared no expense buying movie quality costumes and makeup. They wanted to win the best costume trophy this year. David called to her from the next room. "Oh, this is the one! There's no way we don't take home the win this time." Tabby, who was standing in front of the mirror putting the final touches on her makeup, smiled and responded, "We better, because if we don't, I swear to God this is the last time we spend money for one of these stupid ass parties." Laughing, David did his best impression of the creature and came skulking into the room. Tabby's eyes got big when she saw him in full costume. If she didn't know any better, she'd have sworn he was the real thing. He hissed and moved around the room, pretending to search for something. And when he got near the closet, she blurted out, "Get away from her, you bitch!" before they both burst out laughing at how silly they were being. Once they were ready, Tabitha called her sister, Alison. She and her husband Thomas were meeting them at the party, and she wanted to be sure they were still going. When everything was set, the pair loaded into the car and headed out. Along the way, David had a little fun scaring other drivers and a few kids they drove past during the trip. After a short drive, they were pulling up to a warehouse not far from the museum district. The parking lot was already packed. It took a full 15 minutes of cruising around to find a spot. By 9 o'clock, they were walking through the door. The others met them at the bar, and after helping David take off the head of his costume, they ordered a full round of drinks and found a booth. "First prize gets the trophy," And the VIP section for the night, Thomas shouted over the music while pointing to the roped off area with bottles of champagne chilling on ice. In their minds, Tabby and David had already won. They laughed and talked their way through a few rounds, and at 10, the DJ started calling contestants to the stage. 1 hour later, they found themselves watching a group dressed like zombie Teletubbies, living it up in the VIP. It didn't matter, they drank and danced, having a great time, till around midnight when things went wrong. Tabby and David were outside smoking when Thomas came to find them. "Have you guys seen Alison anywhere? I can't find her." Passing the weed to David, Tabby nodded and exhaled a healthy cloud. "Yeah, she was with Patricia and Brooke from accounting. They were going to the bar the last time we saw her." He nodded and left, only to come back 10 minutes later. He was starting to worry. It wasn't like Alison to just take off without at least saying something. The three of them spent the next hour roaming through the crowd trying to find her, or one of the other women she'd gone to the bar with. They eventually made their way to the second floor. This space was made up of offices and was being used for more private activities. They saw everything from orgies to bondage parties, but Alison was nowhere to be found. Once they made their way through the freak show and were about to head back to the first floor, a naked man covered in blood came sprinting down the hall. Before any of them could say a word, a woman stumbled out of another room. She was missing nearly half of her face, and the majority of her left arm had been torn clean off. It took a moment for people in the hall to realise this wasn't an act. When they did, all hell broke loose. Some rushed over to help, while others ran away screaming. Now caught in the middle of a surging crowd, the three of them were quickly separated. Tabitha found herself swept up in a part of the crowd that was rushing their way down the stairs. She tried calling to David, but she couldn't see him, and even if she could, she wouldn't have been able to get near him. Somewhere in the sea of people ahead of her, chorus of animalistic snarling reverberated through the crowd. Panicked yelling turned to screams for help as something big annihilated anyone unfortunate enough to get caught in its path. From where she was standing, Tabby couldn't see what was happening. Breaking free of the crowd, she climbed on top of a nearby speaker and got a look around. It was chaos. There were people scrambling in every direction, doing their best to find a way out. That's when she saw the first one. She spotted the creature as it lifted a man dressed as Jason Voorhees above its head and ripped him in half. If she hadn't seen it herself, she wouldn't have believed it. In the centre of the room, murdering anything moving, was a real-life, flesh and blood werewolf. Its fur looked black under the strobe lights as it butchered everyone close to it. Another thunderous roar shook her to her core as she spotted a second wolf blocking the exit, shredding through anyone in reach. She watched as Pinhead, Freddy, Leatherface and Chucky got torn apart before someone grabbed her leg. Her instant reaction was blindly kicking to free herself before turning to see who put their hands on her. It was Alison, who was now gushing blood from a possible broken nose. Quickly getting down, Tabitha grabbed her sister by the arm and fought her way to the second floor to find Thomas and David. As the two of them reached the top of the stairs, a third wolf tore into a small group of stragglers who tried to hide in one of the offices. They were trapped. Tabby and her sister frantically glanced around looking for a place to hide. The hallway to their right was a blood-soaked mess littered with corpses. Ahead of them, one of the creatures was busy eating its way through the Addams family. Choosing the hall to the right, they ran. The two of them dashed past an open door, and something slammed into Tabby, sending her flying through the air. She crashed against the wall and crumpled to the floor just as the wolf tore into Alison. It knocked her off her feet, then pinned her to the ground and disemboweled her with her teeth. Tabitha's heart sank, but there was no time to cry. Scrambling to her feet, slipping in pools of blood, she put as much distance as she could between her and the wolf. Near the end of the corridor, she could see another hall to her left. Still listening to the sound of her sister being devoured, she picked up speed and made the turn. The dim red light of an exit sign at the end of the hall gave her a glimmer of hope. Trying not to think about what was going on behind her, Tabby accidentally tripped over a severed leg and fell. Out of reflex, she looked to see what she stumbled over and spotted Thomas's lifeless body propped up against the wall. The leg she tripped over was his. The entire right side of his body was a mangled mess of shredded flesh and exposed bone. She sat there for a moment, lost in the shock of it all, till an audible sniffing sound snapped her out of it. Getting up, she turned to make a run for it as the sniffing turned to a growl. She could see the exit sign clearly now. It was so close she could hear the buzzing sound coming from it, when a voice called out from behind her. "Tabby! Wait!" Recognising the voice as David's, she turned to see him hobbling towards her, covered in blood and nearly naked. Without a second thought, she hurried over, attempting to help him walk. Putting his arm around her shoulder to keep him balanced, she headed for the exit and he started laughing.
"People are so gullible,"
he chuckled, his voice shifting to an inhuman tone. Before she could react, he plunged his hand into her stomach, ripping away a fistful of meat, causing her to stagger back, slumping against the wall near the stairwell. David's body contorted, bone shifting and snapping beneath his skin as he transformed to a massive grey wolf. Snarling, he took a step towards her, as a small group of people raced around the corner behind him. A man dressed as Michael Myers was snatched off his feet and immediately smashed against the ceiling before being thrown at the rest of the group. Slipping in and out of consciousness, Tabitha lay there listening to the sound of him feasting till her world faded to black. To her surprise, she came to a while later, gasping for air. The sound of someone screaming in the darkness faded away as she tried to focus what little energy she had on getting into the stairwell. As she attempted to reach for the door, a low growl sent shockwaves of fear through her body. The creature didn't give her a chance to think. Snatching her by the ankle, it dragged her through the hall and down the main stairs back to the centre of the warehouse, where the rest were waiting. Dropping her lifeless body in the centre of the room, it backed away and took its place with the others, as a slightly familiar woman's voice calmly spoke out from somewhere in the darkness.
"Join or die."
Doing her best to sit up, Tabitha propped herself up on her elbow and tried to focus as Patricia strolled into view. Feeling her body going cold, Tabitha knew she didn't have a choice. Nodding her head, she uttered the last word she would ever speak as a human being. "Join." Don't forget, if you enjoyed that story, be sure to pop over to the author's Reddit profile and drop them a line. or even give them a glowing review. I'm sure they really would appreciate it. The link to their Reddit profile will be below in the description. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to tap the notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. Oh, and don't forget to share the video far and wide. This will all help with YouTube's algorithm and will help to promote this channel more. And don't forget to check out the merch store. The link will be in the description and also in the video thumbnail. And if you would like an honourable mention, send in a snapshot of yourself with your purchase and I'll feature it in one of the videos. I now have my very own subreddit community where you can submit any stories you've written. You can submit your stories or encounters either there or send them to cryptidsroost@gmail.com. If you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. All the links are below. I also have a Facebook group, Twitter, Reddit, and you'll also find me on Discord. If you would like to support this channel and help make it grow, my PayPal is paypal.me/cryptidsroost. Again, that will also be below.